Welcome back to the Support Bear. We are finally back after 1 month. Over the sudden break, we made a few adjustments which we will start in the next episode, which includes an anonymous story section, where we talk about stories that are sent in by listeners, as well as a new YouTube channel to branch out to more people and to allow more access to this podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking about psychosis. It is a condition which can affect the way in which our brain processes information and results in difficulties in distinguishing between what is real and what is not. You might see, hear, or believe things that aren't real. It is most commonly known as a combination of symptoms rather than a mental illness itself.
During a period of psychosis, an individual's thoughts and perceptions of the world may be disturbed, and they may begin to experience difficulties in knowing what is real and what is not. One of the most common psychotic disorders is schizophrenia. It usually affects patients in early adulthood. Some of these symptoms could include hallucinations, delusions, as well as incoherent or nonsense speech and behavior that is inappropriate at the situation.
Hallucinations are a common factor that can occur in any of the senses and can take on any form. For example, simple sensations such as light, color, sound, taste, or smell. They can also be more detailed experiences, which can include seeing and interacting with animals or people, or even hearing voices.
There are two types of psychoses. One is called primary psychosis and the other is called secondary psychosis. Primary psychosis is when it is symptomatic of a psychiatric disorder, such as schizophrenia or delusional disorder, whereas secondary psychosis is when it is caused by a specific medical condition. For example, this could be substance-induced or just psychotic disorder due to a general medical condition.
Psychosis symptoms usually follow a 3-step pattern. First, warning signs happen before psychosis. It can be gradual changes in the way you think about the world around you, a drop in grades or job performance, trouble thinking clearly or concentrating, lack of self-care or hygiene, spending more time alone than usual, or having no emotions at all.
Next, we have signs of early psychosis. This could include hearing, seeing, or tasting things that other people don't, hanging on to unusual beliefs or thoughts that won't change no matter what other people say, or you could begin pulling away from family and friends and starting to forget to take care of yourself, or they may begin to not be able to think clearly or pay attention properly.
Finally, the last stage is psychotic episode, and it includes 2 main factors. One of them is hallucination. Hallucination can happen in 3 different types, such as auditory hallucination, which is hearing voices when no one is around, tactile hallucinations, which is strange sensations or feelings you can't explain, and visual hallucinations is when you see people or things that aren't there, or you think the shape of some objects and people are weirder. There's also delusions, which beliefs that aren't in line with your culture and that don't make sense to others, like outside forces are in control of your feelings and actions. Small events or comments can have a huge meaning and impact, or you could even think that you have special power or in a special mission.
People that experience psychotic symptoms can behave in unpredictable ways and could come off as threatening or violent, but they are more likely to harm themselves than other people around them. Symptoms of psychosis prevent an individual from doing daily day-to-day activities, so it is important to diagnose early and prevent as many of the symptoms as possible.
There is no definite answer to what can cause it specifically. There are many theories about what can cause psychosis, but there are common explanations such as chemical imbalancement theory, the genetic vulnerability theory, the complex disease theory, and the stress and vulnerability theory.
We do know that psychosis can run in the family, which would mean that genes can play an important role. However, there are also environmental factors that can contribute to the situation. A combination of inheriting these genes and adapting it from the environment can cause psychosis. Researchers have done twin studies to investigate further.
Twin studies help researchers understand how genetics contribute and how much the environment contribute to the development of psychosis. This is because identical twins share all of their genetic makeup, and non-identical twins share about half of their genetic information. If genes really did play a role in psychosis, we would expect if one of the identical twins were to develop psychosis, then the other twin would also develop the same illness 100% of the time. And if one of the non-identical twins were to develop psychosis, the other twin would also develop the same illness about 50% of the time. The results show that if one of the identical twins has a psychosis, the other will develop the same illness about 50% of the time, and that this number is lower for non-identical twins. This suggests that genes do play a role in psychosis, but there are still other factors that can contribute to it.
There are many different environmental factors that have been shown to lead to a small increase in the likelihood of someone developing psychosis. Research has shown that it is 2 times more common for individuals with schizophrenia to have had a difficult delivery at birth. Other environmental vulnerability factors include being born in the winter months, being brought up in a big city, immigration, childhood head injury, stressful life events, and drugs. Obviously, it is unlikely that people with psychosis will have all of the environmental vulnerability factors talked about earlier. An individual may have 1, 2, several, or none of the factors listed above and still have psychosis.
Psychosis can also be caused by mental illness such as schizophrenic disorder and sometimes major depression. Besides that, it can also be caused by trauma, sleep deprivation, medication, and drugs.
There is no genetic testing available for the different types of psychosis. This is because researchers still don't know exactly what and how many particular genes can increase a person's vulnerability to psychosis. Without that information, it would be very difficult to interpret the results of genetic testing.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for more episodes. See you.